Hi, welcome back. I'm Annabelle Butler and welcome to my second series of my Rumen Health webinars. Today's topic is on ruminant nutrition and how this affects the rumen. So, let's start with the basics. The rumen is an ecosystem where a symbiosis of microorganisms survives and thrives. The aim of the game is to feed the microbes, which will in turn feed the cow. Without getting too technical, the role of the microbes is to convert the feed into carbohydrates and then into volatile fatty acids, which is the main energy source for a ruminant. In saying that, the cow still has to pull its weight. Cattle ruminate to break particles down, remove excess gas such as methane, and maintain a favourable environment for the rumen. Microbes require an anaerobic environment, which is one with no oxygen, a temperature of around 38 degrees, and a pH between 5.5 and 6.7. In maintaining an ideal environment, a big emphasis is placed on managing the animal's stress levels, as covered in the previous webinar, but nutrition also plays a really key role. Nutritional stress occurs when an animal is not receiving adequate nutrition for maintenance. Now, the key word there, though, is maintenance. If you have a pregnant or lactating cow, working bulls, or growing weaners, nutritional stress becomes a much bigger deal. If you have a lactating cow that is not receiving adequate nutrition for her own maintenance, how can she be expected to grow or even wean a calf? If we look at Queensland cattle producers, MSA's 2017 Australian Beef Eating Quality Insights showed that MSA non-compliance peaked from August to October over the previous 2 years, as seen in the graph on your screen. And although this data is somewhat dated, it shows that a high pH was one of the main contributing factors to MSA non-compliance, which is heavily influenced by stress and nutrition. It is also clear that meat colour and pH were both influential in non-compliance, but you should also know that meat colour can actually be influenced by pH levels. For example, this could equate to around 50 cents per kilo difference between MSA compliance and non-compliance, which, as you can imagine, can start to add up to hundreds of dollars pretty quickly. Although most of you would know that rumen pH is affected by grain intake, it also includes any other feed that is high in readily fermentable carbohydrates, such as molasses. Now that we're aware of this, we need to manage the rumen in a way that maximises nutrients and minimises significant changes to the diet. The best way to ensure the rumen is functioning well is to increase dry matter intake. Now, this cannot be achieved by just increasing available feed, although that can be a contributing factor. It's about balancing fibre and dry matter of the diet to achieve a happy medium. You don't want too much dry matter, as it needs extra chewing to generate more saliva, and the drier the feedstuff in general, the greater the decline in effective rumen function. But then again, too much fibre fills the rumen up without actually providing enough nutrition, and then takes time to move through the system. Palatability also plays a key role, but that needs to be balanced to the rest of the ration to avoid excessive intake of the sweet stuff. As important as maximising dry matter is, it is also critical to get the balance of nutrients correct to support dry matter intake. The easiest way to understand this is to use Justus Lieberg's barrel law of limiting nutrients. This concept originated in the fertiliser industry, but it works exceptionally well for beef cattle. The concept works in a way that if one nutrient is limiting, say for growth or lactation, whatever is the main goal, that will not be optimal even if there are ample amounts of all other nutrients. So, the idea behind the barrel concept is that the shortest stave limits the capacity of the barrel, as seen in the diagram on your screen. This means that the only way to increase the capacity of the barrel is to increase that shorter stave. The trouble is finding out what that limiting nutrient actually is. There are a number of tests that you can try to attempt to identify the limiting nutrient in the current diet of your herd, such as a water test, soil test, liver biopsy, rumen sample, the list goes on. Some tests, such as a rumen sample, would show you more than just the limiting nutrient, but the test you choose to use depends purely on your desired outcome. In saying that, a water test is also important as it highlights whether the water quality is affecting intake or providing additional minerals such as sulfur. Either way, as they say, knowledge is power, and any test that provides an insight into nutritional requirements that are being met and those that are not will benefit your herd, depending on how you act on that information. So, after talking up these fancy tests, there is a very simple test that won't tell you what your herd is deficient in, but will help you to identify rumen efficiency, and that is looking at manure. Manure consistency reflects digestive function. Liquid manure suggests poor rumen efficiency, potentially due to increased speed of passage or increased fermentation in the lower gut, for example. Then again, indigested feedstuff can also be a cause of poor rumen efficiency, often caused by an imbalanced or low diet digestibility. Whether it's an imbalance in the diet or a deficiency, rumen microbes are extremely sensitive to change. When making any changes, say you've found a deficiency for example, just know that it takes from 4 to 6 weeks for the rumen microbiome to fully adjust and utilise the change. Now that we're talking supplementation, it's probably a good time to highlight the order of limiting nutrients, if adequate levels of everything are provided in the diet. The order of limiting nutrients are as follows: energy, protein, phosphorus, sulfur, trace minerals, vitamins A and E, and all other vitamins and minerals. While it is a common practice to supplement for phosphorus across Northern Australia, it is interesting to note that on the scale of limiting nutrients, phosphorus comes in at number 3. This means that first and foremost, if cattle aren't receiving enough energy, that instead of using the phosphorus as phosphorus, the rumen will prioritise and convert this to energy to ensure it is getting enough. That means that money spent on supplementing for phosphorus, for example, isn't going to benefit the animal per se, although it will help the energy gap, but then you still have a phosphorus deficiency in your herd. Another way to look at this situation, not in terms of deficiencies, but it is in terms of pasture management. In conjunction with supplementing for energy or any other limiting nutrient, it is more efficient and effective to supplement your cattle to utilise energy provided from existing grasses and pasture. Not only will you be getting more bang for your buck out of your pasture, you will reap the production benefits, such as a greater weight gain as well. It's also key to note that if you do choose to supplement, the regime you implement needs to work with the pasture that the cattle are on to ensure that there is not an excess of a particular nutrient at the cost of your hip pocket. To complicate the matter further, an understanding of the nutritional composition of your grass that your cattle are grazing is important for managing limiting nutrients and nutrient intake. If you do provide a supplement, monitoring intake is crucial to identifying gaps or other unknown issues in the diet or nutrient availability. Pasture management is so important to maintaining a body of feed, but also the quality of the pasture. Ensuring that good pasture management practices are incorporated is a great way to be sure that cattle are grazing paddocks at the best time in terms of grass growth strategy, and that feed availability is not changing dramatically over a short period of time. It also preserves grass species that you want in your paddock and sets you up in the long run. When considering supplementation to support access to pasture, it is important to identify what your goal may be, whether that is weaner growth, getting cows back into, an average body condition score, or fattening cattle to kill. Once this is identified, it is clear what needs to be predominant in the diet. Although ruminant nutrition is an endless topic, I hope I have provided a few pieces of basic information to help you understand how to best feed and manage your herd. Good nutrition is reflected in production outcomes, meaning more kilos on the ground and more money in your hand. The key is to create efficiency and sustainability in your beef herd using the rumen as your tool.